Long ago, in the charming city of Verona, Italy, two noble families, the Montagues and the Capulets, lived in constant hatred. No one remembered how the feud began, but it had caused many fights, much pain, and sadness across the city. The Prince of Verona, tired of their battles, warned them all. The next person who causes trouble would pay with their life. Among the Montagues lived a young man named Romeo. He was dreamy, poetic, and full of emotion. At first, Romeo was heartbroken over a girl named Rosalind who did not return his love. His heart felt heavy, and he often wandered alone, writing poems and sighing deeply. His cousin Benvolio and witty friend Mercutio tried to lift his spirits. They convinced Romeo to sneak into a Capulet's masquerade ball, saying, "Come, you might find someone new to love." At the grand Capulet house, among the music and dancing, Romeo saw a girl so beautiful that the world seemed to slow down. She was Juliet, the only daughter of the Capulets. He did not know her name, nor she his, but the moment their eyes met, their hearts spoke. It was love at first sight. They exchanged sweet words and shared a gentle kiss, but their joy soon turned into shock when they learned each other's name. "My only love sprung from my only hate," Juliet whispered sadly. Even though their families were enemies, their love was already too strong to forget. That night, unable to stay away, Romeo quietly climbed into Capulet's orchard. He found Juliet standing on her balcony, speaking softly to the stars, dreaming of Romeo. She said she didn't care about names. A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. She sighed. Romeo stepped forward and they spoke of love under the moonlight. Promises were made, hearts were tied, and they decided to marry in secret. The next day, Romeo went to Friar Lawrence, a kind and hopeful priest. The friar agreed to marry them, believing that love might end the hatred between the families. In a quiet cell, with no grand ceremony, Romeo and Juliet became husband and wife. Juliet's trusted nurse helped keep the secret. For a moment, everything felt perfect, but happiness did not last long. Soon after the wedding, Juliet's cousin Tybalt challenged Romeo to a duel for crashing the party. Romeo, now secretly part of Tybalt's family, refused to fight. Mercutio, angry and hot headed, took Romeo's place and was killed by Tybalt. In a storm of grief and fury, Romeo forgot his promise of peace and killed Tybalt in return. The prince, hearing of the bloodshed, chose not to execute Romeo but banish him from Verona forever. "There's no world without Verona walls," Romeo cried. That night, Romeo and Juliet spent a few quiet, painful hours together. At sunrise, they said goodbye, their hearts breaking. Juliet was left behind, and Romeo was sent to Mantua, far from his love. To make matters worse, Juliet's father, unaware of her secret marriage, decided she must marry Count Paris in just a few days. Desperate, Juliet went to Friar Lawrence for help. He gave her a sleeping potion that would make her appear dead for 42 hours. The plan was this: when she woke in her family's tomb, Romeo would be there to take her away. Juliet drank the potion the night before her wedding. The next morning, her family found her lifeless body. Heartbroken, they placed her gently in the Capulet tomb. Friar Lawrence sent a letter to Romeo explaining everything, but the letter never reached him. Instead, Romeo's servant brought him the terrible news: Juliet was dead. Romeo's world collapsed. With nothing left to live for, he bought poison and rushed back to Verona. At Juliet's tomb, Romeo met Paris, who was mourning her. They fought, and Romeo killed Paris. Inside the tomb, Romeo looked at Juliet's face, still beautiful and full of peace. He kissed her lips, drank the poison, and whispered his last words. Moments later, Juliet awoke. She saw Romeo lying beside her, cold and still. Realizing the truth, she took his dagger and said softly, "O happy dagger, this is thy sheath. There rest and let me die." And with that, she joined him in death. When the sun rose over Verona, it lit up a city forever changed. The Capulets and Montagues, standing in the cold silence of the tomb, finally saw the truth. Their children had loved each other so deeply, so purely, that not even hatred, distance, or death could keep them apart. Their hearts, once full of anger, were now full of sorrow. Lord Capulet and Lord Montague, moved by the loss, reached out to each other, no longer as enemies, but as fathers who had lost what they loved the most. In the memory of Romeo and Juliet, they promised peace. They vowed never to let pride and hate rule their hearts again. Statues of gold were built in their honors, not just as monuments, but as a reminder that love is stronger than hate, and that sometimes peace is born from pain. Though Romeo and Juliet's time on earth was short, their love became eternal, spoken in every corner of Verona, passed down through generations, remembered not for how they died, but for how deeply they loved. For never was a story of more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo. Thank you so much for listening to Story Radio, and be back whenever a new video is uploaded. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to never miss a notification.